this woman has the nerve to judge because he likes a little consensual chokey, but you're willing for this man to really chokey someone to death? What kind of moral compass do you have? Get the fuck out of here, dude. What what? Every character in this book is a dumbass, and everyone's pissing me off, and I hate it here. Hi. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Said by Ty. I'm Ty, and I hope you are ready for some Ty time, because we're about to get into some things, yes indeed. And today we are getting into something new. Yes, we are. As you can see, this is a bit of a different setup. It's not my official studio setup. This is my bedroom, and this is the first time you guys would have ever seen my bedroom. You know, this is a feat for the channel, okay? This is a milestone. I figured for the video that I'm going to be recording, I would rather be comfortable. So here I am in my bedroom, just chilling with my cats. Say hi. He ain't got nothing to say. So it is midnight right now. I took a nap earlier, so I'm not tired, you know? So I'm gonna be up, and if I'm gonna be up, I might as well read a book. And I figured, since I wanted to start incorporating book reviews on my channel, I just figured tonight will be the night. And so I have this gem right here. I've had this book for like 2 or 3 years. I have not bothered to read it. I've seen countless YouTubers reviewing the book on YouTube. I've attempted to sit through their reviews, but I've always tried listening to the review while I'm falling asleep. So I literally have no idea what to expect. I do know in the beginning of the story, the main character sees a man get hit by a car or something, and then it just goes from there. But other than that, I have zero clue what else this book is going to be about. I don't know the plot twist or anything like that, so this should be fun. It is by Colleen Hoover. Miss Hoover has quite the reputation. She's a very divisive subject in the writer space. But you know, I'm here to give her a chance today, okay? I think this will be a relatively quick read. I've heard that her novels are pretty easy to get through, so yeah, I mean, let's see if she's good at thriller. I know she mostly does romance, but if she does what she needs to do with this, I might gain a new respect for it. I don't know. We'll have to see. This is a very pivotal moment for me. I'm very excited because, like, I've always wanted to expand the channel beyond the reactions and commentaries because, you know, I do enjoy doing those, but, you know, it can get a little bit stale doing the same thing over and over and over again. And, you know, what better way to add some variety than reading a book and doing book reviews on the channel more consistently? And I would hope that you guys leave other book recommendations for me. Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is what we're here for. This is what I will be reviewing, and I will get back to you after I have read a couple chapters. Okay guys, so I just read up to chapter 3 of Verity, and not gonna lie, it is looking a little bleak already. Look, this is like too many notes for it to just be the first few chapters, you know what I'm saying? But okay, let's get into this. So the book starts off with a car accident which leaves a man dead. Like, a truck hits a man, like squashes his head, and she witnessed that, and like she has blood all over her, and so obviously she's like, oh my god, this just happened. She's shaking and stuff, and then there's this guy, you know, he asks her if she's okay or whatever, and you know, she's clearly shaken by the incident, as anybody would be. So then he like kind of escorts her to a cafe nearby. They go into the men's bathroom because the women's was locked for whatever reason, but they go into the men's bathroom, and you know, she's washing off, she's taking off her shirt, running it under water. They're using wet paper towels to help, you know, try to clean her up, all of that. And while she's standing there just in her bra, see, like he just stays in the room with her, and she calls this chivalrous, and I'm like, girl, and she doesn't express any discomfort with it to him. Like, just dead ass doesn't even ask him to step out as he shuts the door and locks it, and she's just standing there in her bra. He heads for the door, but instead of giving me privacy while I stand here in my least attractive bra, he locks us inside the bathroom so no one will walk in on me while I'm shirtless. It's disturbingly chivalrous and leaves me feeling uneasy. I'm tense as I watch him through the reflection in the mirror. And it's like, girl, like, why didn't you just ask him to leave? I understand a woman in an odd situation. You know, it can be hard to like speak up for yourself. But he's just a weirdo. Let me not focus on her. He's a fucking weirdo. His name's Jeremy, by the way. We learned that their names are Lowen. That's the woman. That's the main character we're following, and his name is Jeremy. Jeremy's displaying creepo behavior already, do not like, and there seems to be like this attraction that's already brewing between them despite the situation and the intensity of what's currently happening. But listen to how Lowen describes Jeremy. His eyes match the tie he just shoved in his pocket. Chartreuse. He's handsome, but there's something about him that makes me think he wishes he weren't. Almost as if his looks might be an inconvenience to him, a part of him he doesn't want anyone else to notice. Girl, huh? Like, what are we talking about? You mean we found the one person on earth who doesn't want their pretty privilege? Yeah, okay. I'm not buying this, okay? And how do you come to that conclusion? Something about him makes you think he sees his looks as an inconvenience. Mind you, there has been no dialogue to indicate as much. She just says that. I think she's just going. It's just the vibe. She's just catching that vibe, I guess. Anyway, the two of them kind of start trauma dumping on each other out of nowhere. We learn that he lost a daughter that drowned in a lake, and we also learned that her mother just recently died of cancer. It seems she had a really complicated relationship with her mother, and apparently Lowen sleepwalks. So yeah, her mom apparently was really afraid for her because she had like sleepwalking fits. So yeah, that's definitely gonna come up later at some point. We learn in the next chapter that Jeremy actually lost two daughters, one to an allergic reaction, and then the other who drowned in a lake. So yeah, boys, the man's been going through it. Okay. Anyway, after they leave the cafe and everything, Lowen needs to go to a meeting that's set up by her literary agent Corey, who she was previously in a 6-month relationship with. And then after they broke up, they maintained a sexual relationship for like 2+ years. And basically we come to realize that this meeting is about an offer for Lowen to take over a book series written by this woman named Verity. And we find out Verity is Jeremy's wife. And Jeremy is at this meeting along with the editor and lawyer that represent the publishing house that Verity, publishes her books through. So Lauren's like, okay, this is kind of odd. We just had this major incident this morning, and then coincidentally, you, meaning Jeremy, are here at this meeting too. And her train of thought about it is kind of like it's a little like weird. I will say the suspicion surrounding Jeremy at this point is a little ham-fisted, because it's just like, okay, listen to what she says. If we really are headed to the same meeting, it makes our chance meeting on the street seem somewhat suspicious. But I guess the odds of us both being in the same place at the same time aren't all that inconceivable, considering we were headed in the same direction to the same meeting and therefore witnessed the same accident. Like, so the author, Miss Hoover, she's trying to, cast a shadow of a doubt on Jeremy here, but there's literally nothing to be suspicious over. Like, if he's supposed to be going to the same meeting, like, yeah, it's not the strangest thing in the world that you ran into each other on the street and witnessed the same accident. It's just a little like you're a little too on the nose, okay? So anyway, we're going through the meeting. Lowen's kind of reticent to accept the offer that they're extending to her because she feels like it's too grandiose of a project. So part of the deal is that she has to go on book tours and do social media and press and all of that, and all of that sounds like hell to her. And she's like, nah, I think I want to stay in the background, even though she's literally about to get evicted out of her apartment. And I'm like, girl, if you don't just accept this gig, like, I understand social anxiety, it's a monster, but you're literally about to be living on the streets. Like, get over yourself, okay? But anyway, after everyone in the room kind of allows her and Jeremy to have a conversation on their own, we learn a little bit more about Jeremy and the tragedies he's been experiencing. So he actually had another daughter that died from an allergy like 6 months before the first daughter we learned about drowned. And then shortly after that, his wife got into a car accident. And that's the reason this whole discussion and meeting is taking place, because Verity herself is not in healthy condition. So this is why they need someone to take over for her. Anyway, we also learn a little bit more about, her relationship with Corey. Corey has to be the most idiotic man on the planet, because when she's telling us, how they got together, she queried him. And if you don't know what a query is, it's essentially what writers do. Writers submit to agents when they're looking to get book deals. It's an endeavor that I'm currently about to embark on for the manuscript that I've just completed. Not gonna go into all the details, but that's what it is. And so he responded to her query, and then they met up, had a contract signed, and then like the next day they're fucking which is fine, sure, whatever. Conflict of interest, who? I don't know her. But the thing about their relationship is, she says that Corey read her manuscript and assumed that her main character was a reflection of her, which is so dumb, especially for a literary agent, because why would you read a manuscript and then be like, oh damn, this must be what you're like in real life? Like, what? The whole point of writing a book is to create a fictional character with fictional personality traits. Like, of course, there are self-insert characters, obviously, but for a literary agent to immediately go there like, wow, this must be you in real life, and then to act on it, get into a relationship with this writer, and then be like, actually, I think I'm good. Because that's what happened. How she describes it is, our sexual relationship only lasted as long as it did because he wasn't serious about anyone else, and neither was I. It was convenient until it wasn't. But the reason our actual relationship was so short-lived is because he was in love with another woman. Never mind that the other woman in our relationship was also me. And that's what she's meaning when she says that. He literally read a manuscript, fell in love with the main character of the manuscript, and then was disappointed when the person who wrote the manuscript wasn't like the fictional character. Grown-ass man, grow up. Anyway, moving on. So the book deal is in place. The plans are set. Lowen is going to travel to Verity and Jeremy's home because she needs to go through Verity's office, I suppose, to like retrieve the notes from the series that Verity's taken, because apparently it's like 10 years worth of fucking content that she needs to get acquainted with. So yeah, she's planning to go out there for like a day or two, whatever. So going into chapter 3, I want to read something for y'all because I was actually a little bit baffled. I had a boyfriend in my early 20s named Amos who liked being choked. It's why we broke up, because I refused to choke him. But sometimes I wonder where I'd be had I entertained his urge. Would we be married now? Would we have children? Would he have moved on to even more dangerous sexual perversions? I think that's what worried me the most with him. In your early 20s, vanilla sex should satisfy a person without the need to introduce fetishes so early on in a relationship. I like to think about Amos when I find myself disappointed with the current state of my life. So she's like, this is the very definition of kink shaming. And let me tell you something, I'm not against kink shaming. I'm sorry, crucify me if you will, but I said what I said. But the thing with this, like, this is one of the most tame kinks someone can have. Like, choking them a little bit, come on, girl. You're sitting here acting like he wanted you to shit in his mouth or something. And the way it's framed is crazy to me. Would he have moved on to even more dangerous sexual perversions? The use of the word perversion, like, is very striking to me. And the fact that she looks down on him for it, I like to think about Amos when I find myself disappointed with the current state of my life. God forbid a man likes a little chokey. God forbid. God forbid. You know what? I think I'm starting to understand Corey better, because low key, when I read that, I'm like, Are these Colleen Hoover's sentiments about this? Because it's so strange. Maybe I misjudged Corey. Maybe I was just a little too harsh in my judgment. But yeah, anyway, nothing super significant happens in chapter 3. Corey comes over to celebrate the book deal going through with champagne and, and possibly, a little sucky. But Lowen isn't here for a little sucky because she knows that he has a woman in his life named Rebecca, apparently. So yeah, I suppose in the midst of their 2-year sexual relationship, following their breakup, he started seeing someone, and she's like not willing to be part of that. It's a very short-lived celebration because they just drink a little bit of wine or whatever, and he's essentially just like, I'm not really comfortable with you going to these people's home, because it's like weird because Jeremy has suffered 3 losses in succession, and it's like, that's suspicious. That's weird. And Corey's basically implying that she needs to be careful when dealing with Jeremy, because who knows if he was actually involved in the deaths of his daughters and the car accident that his wife was in. And it basically ends with her being like, fuck you, I'm gonna go anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. As ridiculous as some of the moments have been, it's been bearable. It's fine. I'm not bored. I feel like the worst thing a book can be is boring. A book can be bad, and I'm not saying this is bad because I haven't even gotten through a significant amount of it to even make that judgment. But, a book can be bad, but if it's boring, that's where you lose me. Because I can get amusement out of a bad book, but a boring book, don't play with me like that. But yeah, guys, I will pick this up tomorrow. It is like almost 3 in the morning here, so I'm about to go to bed. See you soon. Hey, I'm back. So it's been almost 2 weeks since I last came on camera about this book, and I am pretty much at the end of it. I have like a little bit over 20 pages left. This book is a mess. I cannot wait to deep dive. Hi, what are you doing? I cannot wait to deep dive, deconstruct this with y'all. But as of right now, I'm just gonna focus on trying to get it read because, yeah, I mean, a lot has happened. A lot has gone down. A lot of it is nonsensical, incoherent, etc. And I've had quite a few laugh out loud moments and moments that made me like put the book down like, what the fuck is going on? So, at least it has that going for it. I wasn't bored for the most part. But yeah, I'm gonna finish this book right now. Like I said, I got about 20-ish pages left, so we're just about to go ahead and knock it out. Bro, no goddamn way. They about to piss me off. Y'all, this shit is getting goofy. Well, we were already there. But I'm just gonna finish reading. Well, guys, I finished the book. I would get closer to the camera, but my son is laying here and I don't want to disturb him right now. But I have completed the book, and I have a lot to say. This is going to be a long video. Going to be a very long video. But I'm not going to get into all of my shit tonight. It is probably going on 2 in the morning at this point, so I am going to go to bed. And I will see you guys when I see you guys. Peace. Hello guys, so we are continuing with the dissection of Verity. As you guys saw in the previous clip, I did finish the book, and wow, what a mess. Now, where we last left off, Lowen had officially accepted the job offer, and she's going to go stay at what's this man's name? I forgot his name. Jeremy. She's going to stay with Jeremy at his home. At he and Verity's home, and they have a little boy named Crew who, Lowen runs into, and she arrives and Jeremy is giving her a tour of the home, and right away red flags are being raised, okay, because we come across something very interesting. So Jeremy is giving Lowen the tour, and Jeremy takes her to the master bedroom where he and Verity used to sleep. And I'm just gonna read this section for you. I look around the room and this all feels so bizarre, especially that I'll be sleeping in their bed. My eyes are pulled to the headboard, specifically to the teeth marks bitten into the top edge of the headboard in the center of the bed. I immediately tear my eyes away before Jeremy catches me looking. He'll probably see all over my face that I'm wondering which one of them had to bite the headboard in order to keep quiet during sex. Have I ever had sex that intense? Well, no, clearly not, ho, because you kink shame Amos for liking to be choked. As Lowen is getting acquainted with the home, she gets the sense that it's just everything's kind of just off, a little weird, which, sure. But then she discovers a manuscript written by Verity herself. Mind you, Lowen's job is to read Verity's books and look at her outlines and figure out how to continue this popular series that Verity has written. And mind you, we have no actual clue what this series is about. All we get is that it's written in the antagonist POV, and it's such a great piece of fiction, and it puts you in the mind of the antagonist. We have zero clue what the story itself is actually about, which isn't a big deal, I guess, but I felt like that would have been interesting to know what the actual content of the story Verity wrote was. But anyway, Lowen's going through her office, whatever, and she comes across Verity's manuscript called So Be It, and this manuscript is some shit. So Verity is taking us through how she first met Jeremy. So she meets Jeremy at this event thing, whatever, and the way it's detailed is like Verity is on the prowl for like a rich man to have sex with, I guess, whatever, who cares. And she comes across Jeremy, and Jeremy actually isn't rich. He kind of is like putting on a facade that he has it like that. Like he even goes into a limo and pretends it's his, only for it to turn out to not be his. But like that doesn't faze Verity too much. She still finds him charming and handsome and cute and fuckable. So the night goes on. They hang out at like a diner or a restaurant or whatever the case, and then he takes her home. And it reads, Jeremy wasn't rich. He could barely afford the steak and shake he had bought me. But I didn't care. I was on his bed, lying on my back, watching him undress when I realized I was about to make love for the first time. I'd had sex before, but never with more than just my body. There was so much more of me invested in that moment than my body. My heart felt full. Of what? I don't know. But my heart had felt empty with the men who came before Jeremy. Mind you, she met Jeremy like 2 hours ago. So skipping to chapter 2 of Verity's autobiography, we learn that Jeremy asked Verity to move in with him as they were having sex. He had suggested I move in with him one night during sex. He does that sometimes, makes huge decisions about our lives together while he's fucking me. Move in with me, he said, thrusting slowly into me. He lowered his mouth to mine. Break your lease. I can't, I whispered. He stopped moving and pulled back to look down on me. Why not? I lowered my hands to his ass and made him start moving again because I broke my lease 2 months ago. First of all, bitch, if you're having this much conversation and it's not even titillating conversation, it's just like casual conversation about like break your lease, move in with me. Clearly the sex ain't that damn good. So Verity reveals to Jeremy that she had already broke her lease a couple months ago, because at that point they had already been together every damn day for 6 months straight or something like that. So she's like, yeah, I broke it off. But she didn't tell him that. And it was a little bit of an issue for him that she didn't tell him that. But it becomes okay again because, she seduces him with her poussoir. But he seemed a little angry with me, like he wanted to talk about this subject I considered closed. I didn't want to talk anymore. I just wanted him to make me come. So I straddled his face and lowered myself onto his tongue. There is a gnat in here. Move, bitch! So I straddled his face and lowered myself onto his tongue. When I felt his hand grip my ass, pulling me closer to his mouth, my head rolled back for a delicious moment. This is why I moved in with you, Jeremy. That's what she thinks in her head. This is why I moved in with you, Jeremy. I leaned forward, gripped his headboard, and then bit down on it, stifling my screams. And that was that. So yeah, that's where the bite marks in the headboard come from. You guys would not believe how that shit comes up later. Anyway, Jeremy goes away on business trips for like weeks or months at a time, and that leaves Verity, with some time to miss him and stuff like that. I wrote an entire novel in the few months he was gone. When he showed up at our front door to surprise me with his return home, I had just finished editing the final page. I congratulated him with a blowjob. It was the first time I swallowed. That's how happy I was to see him. And, at a certain point, it's like, okay, what kind of book is this supposed to be? This is supposed to be a thriller novel. You know what I mean? Like, so far, it's just Lowen meandering around this house feeling weird about it and reading this manuscript about a bunch of sex. Where's the thrill? Also, during these time periods where Jeremy is away, Verity writes a lot, and Jeremy wants to read one of her novels. But she is, like, terrified of him actually reading her work. I jumped, trying to pull his arm down so I could reach the pages. It needs work. That's fine, he said, backing up a step, but I still want to read it. I don't want you to read it. He gathered the rest of the manuscript and tucked it to his chest. He was going to read it, and all I could think about was stopping him. I didn't know if it was any good, and I was scared, terrified that it would make him love me less if he thought I was a bad writer. Girl, you thought your man was gonna leave you because... You thought your man would leave you for being a bad writer? These are not grown people. These are not adults that I'm reading about. Like, it can't be. It can't be. So Jeremy locks himself in the bathroom to read the book against her wishes. After some time, she is laying in bed and he comes back to her. He kissed a spot below my ear and then he said, "You're fucking brilliant." I don't think I've ever smiled so big. He rolled me onto my back and swept my hair out of my face. "I hope you're ready." "For what?" I asked. "Fame." I laughed, but he didn't. He pulled off his pants and removed my panties. And after he pushed into me, he said, "Do you think I'm kidding?" First of all, you're pushing in without no foreplay is diabolical. Yeah, no. Do y'all be doing that? Do y'all just be like dry fucking? I don't know. After he pushed into me, he said, "Do you think I'm kidding?" He kissed me, then continued, "Your writing is going to make you famous. Your mind is incredible. If I could fuck it, I would." All right. My laughter was mixed with a moan as he continued to make love to me. "Are you saying that because you believe it or because you love me?" He didn't answer right away. His moves became slow and deliberate. His stare was intense. "Marry me, Verity." Okay, so red flag. Like, why? Just why? 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 I didn't react because I thought maybe I had misheard him. Did he really just ask me to marry him? I could tell by the intensity in his expression that he was more in love with me in that moment than he'd ever been. I should have said yes immediately because that's where my heart was. But instead, I said, "Why?" "Because," he said, grinning, "I'm your biggest fan." Okay, then more sex. "Marry me," he pleaded again, and then his tongue was in my mouth and it was the first real kiss we'd shared in months. We needed each other so badly in that moment. Our bodies were making it difficult for our mouths to stay aligned, so the kiss was sloppy and painful and, "Okay," I whispered. Thank you, he said in the middle of a sigh, his words full of more breath than voice. He continued to fuck me, his fiancée, until we were covered in sweat, and I could taste blood. And I could taste blood in my mouth where he had accidentally bitten my lip. Or maybe I'd bitten his. I wasn't sure, but it didn't matter because his blood was my blood now. So, bitch, if being a good writer was enough to get someone to want to marry me, clearly I'm doing something wrong. Clearly, I don't have the sauce. Because I want to be a published author one day. And no one has proposed to me yet, much less in the middle of sex. So this section of the manuscript, before it cuts to Lowen's POV, it just ended like in a very corny fashion, and that's the only reason why I have it marked here, and I'm gonna read it. But then the night we got engaged became the night we conceived. And here's where it gets real. The guts of my autobiography. This is the point when other authors would paint themselves in a better light rather than throw themselves into an x-ray machine. But there is no light where we're going. This is your final warning. Darkness ahead.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Like, girl, you are not edgy. Like, shut up. So then, yeah, we do cut back to Lowen's POV. And I do have to say, like, the back and forth with Lowen reading a chapter and then stopping and then reading a chapter and then stopping, very, very unrealistic. Like, what do you mean you're stopping before you go to the next? You are not gonna... I am going to read this shit in one sitting. Do you hear me? So again, just to remind the audience, Verity is, allegedly out of commission. She's not there mentally, can't really move or do anything by herself. That's, the story we're being told. The clever and talented Verity is no longer there. Was her body the only thing that survived that wreck? It's as if she were an egg, cracked open and poured out, and all that's left are the tiny fragments of hard shell. I glance back down at the desk and try to focus. I can't help but wonder how Jeremy is handling all this. He's a concrete pillar on the outside, but the inside has to be hollow. It's disappointing knowing this is his life now, caring for an eggshell with no yolk. Girl, like, why are you so corny? Like, ew, ew, ew. So, in the midst of all of this, we all know that Lowen's having... money issues or whatever, right? So she applied for an apartment, and while she's staying here with Jeremy and his family, her application gets denied. So basically she has nowhere to go. She had only planned to be here with Jeremy and his family for a few days, and after that she was gonna go to her new apartment. The person on the phone is telling her that she can appeal and it might be able to go through in a few weeks. She's saying she doesn't have a few weeks. She needs somewhere to stay, like, right now. So Jeremy overhears that conversation on the phone that Lowen was having with the property manager or whatever. By the way, while she's here, she's being referred to as Laura instead of Lowen. A very minor detail that is honestly negligible, because like the whole fake name thing isn't really relevant at all over the course of the story, but whatever. She's only referred to as Laura when she's in front of crew or Verity's caretakers or whatever. Jeremy overhears this conversation with the property manager or whatever who denied Lowen's application, and this is how this interaction transpires. I can loan you money until your advance is processed through your agent. I'll have to pull it from our mutual fund, but it can be here in 3 days. I have never been this embarrassed, and I know he can see it because I practically curl into myself as I lean forward on the desk and drop my face into my hands. That's really sweet, but I'm not taking a loan from you. He's quiet for a moment, then chooses to take a seat on the couch. He sits casually, leaning forward, clasping his hands in front of him. Then stay here until your advance hits your account. It'll only be a week or two. He looks around the office, seeing how much progress I haven't made since I arrived yesterday. We don't mind. You aren't in the way at all. I shake my head, but he interrupts. Lowen, this job you've taken on is not easy. I'd rather you spend too much time in here prepping for it than get back to New York tomorrow and realize you should have stayed longer. I do need more time, but 2 weeks in this house with a woman who scares me because, yeah, she's very afraid of Verity because I guess like a little bit earlier in the book, I think she saw Verity kind of looking in her direction, and that scared the shit out of her. Whatever. With a woman who scares me, a manuscript I shouldn't be reading, and a man I know way too many intimate details about, it's not a good idea. None of it is good. I start to shake my head again, but he holds up a hand. Stop being considerate. Stop being embarrassed. Just say all right. This all right thing. Okay, I didn't mention it because it was fucking stupid. They try to make all right a thing in this book. Like, Like it is literally so meaningless, but it almost reads like Colleen Hoover tried to make a maybe okay can be our always type of thing, and it was just like, girl, like stop trying to make fetch happen. It's never going to happen. Anyway, I look past him at all the boxes lining the walls behind him, the things I haven't even touched. And then I think about how, with 2 weeks in here, I would have time to read every book in her backlist, make notes on each of them, and possibly outline the 3 new ones. I sigh, conceding with a little bit of relief. All right. The issue I have with Lowen as a character is she makes very, very stupid decisions very often. And it's very annoying to read. Like, this man literally offered you money for somewhere to stay, and you denied it for what? Girl, you're dirt broke, you have nowhere to live, and you don't like being in this house. You can literally take everything from Verity's office that you need and just take it to where you need to go. There's literally nothing keeping you here, like actually. Like the reasoning for her staying is so stupid and contrived. And it's like, girl, what are we doing? What are we doing? You don't have to be here. You don't. You're gonna literally deny the money being offered to you when you don't want to be in this house out of what? And it's not like it's a handout. You have an advance coming because you've accepted the job. You're gonna be paid very well, so you can give that money right back, but you're still refusing to accept it for what? It's literally just a contrivance for the plot. And it's not good when you can tell that it's a contrivance for the plot. Like, obviously, in a lot of stories, particularly like thrillers, there are going to be contrivances. I'm a thriller writer myself. The books that I want to publish are largely thrillers. And yes, there are going to be some contrivances, but like you want to make it so it's not glaringly obvious and like glaringly stupid. I don't know. Anyway, more creepy things happen with Verity. There's an incident with Jeremy and Verity's son, Crew, where Crew and Jeremy are like outside on the deck by this lake that's behind their house, and Lowen is at a window, like on a balcony or some type of shit, and above her and like to the right is Verity's room, and she sees Crew waving, and at first she thinks he's waving at her, but she quickly realizes that he's kind of waving above her and towards the right where Verity's room is. So that leads her to believe that Verity is up and moving around, and she's freaking out. I'm seeing things, but why was he waving at her window? If she wasn't there, why was he waving? It doesn't make sense. If she was looking out her window, Crew would have had a much bigger reaction, considering she hasn't been able to speak or walk on her own since her wreck. Or maybe he doesn't understand that his mother walking to her window would be a miracle. He's only 5. So then she goes to Verity's bedroom. Verity is in her bed, eyes closed, hands to her sides on top of the blanket. I breathe a quiet sigh of relief and then feel even more relief when I open the door a little wider, revealing an oscillating fan moving back and forth from Verity's bed to the window overlooking the backyard. Because mind you, the window curtain moved and it made Lowen think that Verity moved it. But now as she's at the bedroom door, it's like, oh, it was the fan that was blowing on the curtain. My sigh is louder this time. It was the damn fan. Get a grip, Lowen. I turn off the fan because it's a little too chilly in here for it. I cut my eyes toward Verity again, but she's still asleep. When I get to the door, I pause. I look at the dresser, at the remote sitting on top of it. I look up at the TV mounted to the wall. It isn't on. April said she turned on the TV before she left, but the TV is not on. Mind you, April is one of Verity's caregivers. Very inconsequential character. I really felt like April was gonna have something significant to do with the plot because she was always kind of just there and she would give Lowen these looks, like these suspicious looks, and I thought that was gonna lead somewhere and it never did, but sure. I don't even look back at Verity. I pull the door shut and rush down the stairs. I'm not going back up there again. I'm scaring myself. The most helpless person in this house is the one I'm the most afraid of. It doesn't even make sense. She wasn't staring at me through the office window. She wasn't standing at her window looking at Crew, and she didn't turn off her own TV. It's probably on a timer, or April accidentally hit the power button twice and assumed she turned it on. Regardless of the fact that I'm aware this is all in my head, I still walk back to Verity's office, close the door, and pick up another chapter of her autobiography. Maybe reading more from her point of view will reassure me that she's harmless and I need to chill the fuck out. So yeah, she's just scared of a disabled woman. Anyway, we learn from Verity's manuscript that she's pregnant, and she ain't happy about it. And at first, she was happy because Jeremy was happy, because her entire world revolves around Jeremy in this manuscript. But then she notices that she's gaining a little bit of weight, and she's like, "Oh shit, fuck no. I can't let this be." I was disgusted. I vowed to start working out 3 times a day. I'd seen what pregnancy could do to women, but I also knew most of the damage was done in the last trimester. If I could somehow figure out how to deliver early, maybe around 33 or 34 weeks, I could avoid the most detrimental part of pregnancy. There have been so many advances in medical care. Babies born that early are almost always fine. So yeah, she's a psycho, and she's all disgusted with herself or whatever. And Jeremy finds her, and she's like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You've never looked more beautiful. Blah 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 blah." And she's like, "No, you're just saying that." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And then he fucks her on the counter. And then later on, they discover that they're having twins, and this makes her super upset. I was quiet when we left the doctor's office that day. I had already feared becoming the mother of one baby, being forced to love the one thing Jeremy loved more than me. But when I found out there were 2 and that they were girls, I was suddenly not okay with being the 3rd most important thing in Jeremy's life. Now that there were 2 of them, my body would suffer even more damage. I shuddered daily at the thought of them growing inside me, stretching my skin, ruining my breasts, my stomach, and God forbid the temple between my legs where Jeremy worshipped nightly. How could Jeremy still want me after this? Like, this girl is the grand overseer of the Pick Me committee. So then she gets into trying to abort the babies on her own. I took sleeping pills when he wasn't looking. I drank wine when he wasn't around. I did anything I could do to destroy the things that were going to push him away from me. But nothing worked. They kept growing. My stomach continued to stretch. In my 5th month, we were lying on our sides in the bed. Jeremy was fucking me from behind. Like, bro, this whole relationship is nothing but sweet nothings and fucking. That's all they do. Anyway, while they're in the middle of doing the do, Jeremy feels the babies move inside her belly. And, he's just so infatuated with it. And she asks him if he loves them. And he says, "I love them more than anything." And she goes, "More than me?" And then he's like, "Different, yes, but more? Is your love for them more intense than your love for me?" And then, he goes, "Yes, but that's how it should be." And then he asks her, "Do you feel guilty because you love them more than me?" I didn't answer. Did he really think I loved them more than I loved him? I don't even know them. And to be honest, fair, like that's the one sane thing Verity has actually said in this book, because it's a very real thing. When it comes to like medical issues during birth, I know it's a very contentious subject, so I'm not going to get super deep into it or anything. There are women out there who are like, if there's ever an emergency like that, like, save my life over the baby. And there are some women who are like, save the baby's life over mine. Both of those are valid. And so I'm not particularly, even though it kind of reads a little bit even though it reads kind of crazy, it's like low-key valid, because we don't know them kids. Fuck them kids. Anyway, her finding out that Jeremy loves his kids more than her, completely puts her in despair, and she's just over it and just can't handle this truth. And then that's where we leave on that part of the manuscript. So we're back to Lowen's POV, and she's kind of reflecting on what she just read. And again, this is where Lowen's dumb decisions come to the forefront once more, because she starts to wonder what actually happened to the twin girls that died, kind of suspecting that Verity may have had something to do with it, right? So she goes, "After a while of processing it, I put the manuscript in a drawer beneath a slew of other things. I don't ever want Jeremy to come across that. And before I leave here, I will destroy it. I can't imagine how he would feel if he read that. He's already grieving the deaths of his daughters. Imagine if he knew what they endured at the hands of their own mother." Bitch, who the fuck are you to like destroy anyone's anything and protect anyone from anything in their own home? Girl, it's words on paper. Like girl, if anything, he's entitled to this knowledge. If anything, if you wanted to play any type of role in this, you give him the knowledge of what his wife thought. And even that, is not your business. It's not your place. If you're gonna insert yourself, do that. You don't. Who are you to come into someone's home and be like, I'm not gonna let this man that I barely know read this. I'm not gonna let him ever see this. I'm gonna destroy it. Like, what? You don't know these people. Anyway, Lowen comes across some photos of the family, and she notices that on one of the twin girls' cheek, there's a scar on there. And like, I was able to put two and two together pretty quickly about what that scar would mean. And we do get the reveal a little bit later. So the twin who had the scar is named Chasten, and the other twin is Harper. And Chasten has that scar because of one of Verity's abortion attempts. She like used a hanger and to get it out of there, but it didn't work. And it left a scar on the fetus, essentially. Blah, blah, blah. Stuff is happening. Jeremy buys Lowen a lock for the inside of her bedroom door. And he does this because Lowen has like sleepwalking fits or whatever. And also just for her to feel more secure. And this leads Lowen to reflect on her sleepwalking habit. After the first few times my mother caught me sleepwalking, she became concerned. She put me in therapy, hoping it would help more than the sleeping pills did. My therapist said it was important to unfamiliarize myself with my surroundings. He said it would help if I created obstacles that would be hard for me to move past while I was sleepwalking. A lock on the inside of my bedroom door was one of those obstacles. And while I'm almost certain I locked it before I fell asleep all those years ago, it doesn't explain why I woke up the next morning with a broken wrist and covered in blood. And I'm just going to say it here right now. This whole sleepwalking thing goes absolutely nowhere. It literally does nothing for the plot. And I was hoping it would. I was hoping it would lead somewhere. But ultimately, it amounted to nothing. And so did the whole storyline with her mother. Like that whole backstory with her mom and their contentious relationship. And none of that goes absolutely anywhere. Utterly inconsequential. Like, why did it have to be in this book? I don't know. To pad out the pages, I guess. So anyway, as this whole ordeal is going on, her staying with them, it's very obvious that her and Jeremy are developing a thing. You know what I'm saying? The way that unfolds later on is we'll get there. There's an incident with Crew. He's in Verity's room and Lowen can hear him crying. So she rushes in. He's on the floor. He's holding his chin and there's blood on his hands and fingers. And it's like, what the hell is going on? So Lowen asks him, like, did you cut yourself with that knife? Because there's a knife nearby. Crew says, Mommy said I'm not supposed to touch her knife. I freeze. Your mommy says that? Crew doesn't respond. Crew, I say, grabbing a washcloth. It feels like my heart is stuck in my throat as I speak to him, but I try to hide my fear as I wet the washcloth. Does your mommy talk to you? Crew's body is rigid, and the only thing that moves is his head when he shakes it. I press the washcloth to his chin right before I hear Jeremy's footsteps bounding up the stairs. He must have heard Crew's scream. So yeah, we're still setting up this idea that Verity isn't actually disabled, that she can actually move, that she can speak, that she has her wherewithal. So Crew is rushed out of the room to the bathroom. Jeremy's like getting a first aid kit. He's discussing with Lowen what happened. Lowen's like, I assumed he cut himself on the knife. There was a knife in there. And Jeremy's like, okay, go get it. But when she returns back to the room, there's no knife anywhere to be seen. But then not only that, Verity looks at her and she freaks out again. I know I saw a knife. I'm not going crazy. Am I? I put my hand on the mattress to lift myself up off the floor, but immediately shift backward onto my palms when I catch Verity watching me. Her head is in a different position, turned to the right, her eyes on me. Holy shit! I choke on my fear as I scoop myself backward, away from her bed. I end up several feet away from her, and even though her head is the only thing different about her from when I walked into the room, my fear is telling me to run for my life. I pull myself up, using the dresser for support, and keep my eyes fixated on her as I move back toward the door, facing her the whole time. I'm trying to suppress my terror, but I'm not convinced she isn't about to lunge at me with the knife she picked up from the floor. So just to be clear, in case any of you are lost, because I'm not the best at articulating this so far, but in case any of you are lost, Verity is supposed to be disabled, and the things that are freaking Lowen out so much is she has seen Verity look at her and she has assumed that she can move. And now based off of those things, she is now suspicious that Verity will lunge at her with a knife. Leaps in logic? I don't know. Because my thing is just, in the event that you did suspect this person could actually move or whatever, I could see why it would be a little unsettling. Like, bitch, you can move. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, that is unsettling. But the fact that you're like terrified of her to the point where you believe she's like gonna cut you or something, like, girl, get a fucking grip. And again, you don't have to be here. I will remind the audience, Jeremy offered her money to stay at a hotel until her advance goes through, but she chose not to accept for like damn near no reason. Like, she just didn't want to accept the money. So she's choosing to stay here instead in this place with this person that she's so afraid of. I close her door behind me and stand there, gripping the doorknob until I can control my panic. I breathe in and out steadily 5 times, hoping Jeremy doesn't see the terror in my eyes when I walk back to tell him there was no knife. But there was a knife. My hands are shaking. I don't trust her. I don't trust this house. As much as I know I need to stay in order to do the best job, I'd much rather sleep in my rental car on the streets of Brooklyn for the next week than sleep in this house another night. And yet she doesn't do that. And yet she continues to stay. And yet she doesn't show Jeremy the manuscript. And again, she herself hasn't read the full manuscript, which again is very contrived, because she definitely would have read that in one sitting as a writer, reader, etc. But we move. So leading into the next chapter, which is going to be another chapter from Verity's point of view in her autobiography, Lowen says, it's apparent that the way she wrote the rest of her novels wasn't a unique approach for her. After all, they say write what you know. I'm beginning to think Verity writes from a villainous point of view because she's a villain. Being evil is all she knows. I feel a little evil myself as I open the drawer and do exactly what I swore to myself I wouldn't do again. Read another chapter. So yeah, she's just wrote this lady off as being evil because she suspects she can move. And I guess the fact that Verity had attempted to abort her babies in the manuscript, but like, girl, like, please be serious. So yeah, we're back in the 4th chapter of Verity's manuscript. They were determined to live. I'll give them that. Nothing I tried worked. The attempted self-abortion, the random pills, the accidental fall down a flight of stairs. The only thing any of my attempts resulted in was a small scar on one of the baby's cheeks. A scar I'm sure I'm responsible for. A scar Jeremy couldn't shut up about. So yeah, that's where the scar on Chasten's cheek came from. So now Verity is being thoroughly painted as the villain in Lowen's eyes. Like, she is just disgusted with this woman, damn near hates her guts. So Lowen's talking with Jeremy again about, the twins. And she learns that after Verity's accident, he was angry with her. And Lowen interprets this as he thinks she hit the tree on purpose. Keep that in mind, because Verity being in a car that ran into a tree is what allegedly left her the way she is. Keep that in the back of your heads. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Jeremy and Lowen are looking at some pictures of the twins, whatever. And then Cruz stumbles upon them and he sees the pictures they're looking at and he just absolutely freaks out. He's like, put them back. I don't want to see them. And, he's just not having it. He doesn't want to see these pictures of his dead sisters. So he's clearly a lot more affected by their deaths than we were led to believe, because before it was kind of described like almost as if he was indifferent. But he the way he's freaking out is like, no, he loved his sisters. And he's a child having to process the loss of his older siblings. So he's feeling that. So Lowen is reflecting back on Cruz's freak out, and she's like, what was that? It's quiet upstairs for several minutes. I don't hear Cruz putting up a fight or yelling, so I think that's a good sign. But my knees feel weak and my head feels heavy. Mom, spaghetti! I need to lie down. Maybe I shouldn't have taken 2 Xanax tonight. Or maybe I shouldn't have brought family pictures out and put them on display in front of a family who still hasn't recovered from their loss. Or maybe I shouldn't have almost kissed a married man. Oh yeah, because at this point, her and Jeremy almost kissed. Like, goddamn. I rub at my forehead, suddenly feeling the urge to bolt, flee, and never come back to this house of sadness. What am I still doing here? That's a good goddamn motherfucking question, Lauren. What the fuck are you still doing here, bitch? You do not have to be here. You can leave. You can leave. You can leave. But you're gonna stay because the plot needs you to stay, girl. That's all this is, girl. That's why you're still here. The plot needs you to be here. There's no logical reason for you to still stay here after everything. The way that you're so freaked out about Verity, about the house, about literally everything, and you're still here when you don't have to be. You're not being forced. That's what makes this goofy. All right, so picking up where we left off. So Lowen, Jeremy, and crew go to this dinner, just to have like a nice night out. This date is not significant at all. The only purpose it serves is to like try to build up more of a connection between Lowen and Jeremy, but it's so damn silly. So they're all like taking turns telling jokes or whatever, right? And then it's Lowen's turn to tell one, and it goes like this. What is green, fuzzy, and if it fell out of a tree, it would kill you? Crew leans forward with his chin in his hands. I don't know. A fuzzy green piano. Crew doesn't laugh at my joke, neither does Jeremy, at first. Then, a few seconds later, Jeremy releases a burst of laughter that makes me smile. I don't get it, Crew says. Jeremy is still laughing, shaking his head. Crew looks up at Jeremy. How is that funny? Jeremy puts his arm around Crew. It's not, he says. It's funny because it's not funny. Crew looks at me. That's not how jokes are supposed to work. Okay, I have another one, I say. What's red and shaped like a bucket? Crew shrugs. A blue bucket painted red. Jeremy squeezes his jaw, trying to hold back his laughter. Seeing him laugh is probably the best thing that's happened since I showed up here. Brother, why are you forcing your laugh? Like, I don't believe that he's actually laughing this hard at this shit. Like, I get it. I understand the concept of a joke being funny because it's not funny, but it just feels forced. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking at this point, but who cares? So after their date, Lowen's kind of longing for him, and they're sharing these moments where they're like gazes are lingering on each other, the classic romance building type stuff. And then Lowen decides with her weird ass, she's like, man, I just need more of him in any capacity, in any way that I could have him. So she decides to read more of Verity's manuscript with the sole purpose of finding an intimate scene between Verity and Jeremy. You couldn't make this shit up. So now we're back to Verity's manuscript, and we are just truly learning how trash Verity is. I mean, damn. I was terrified of being left alone with the babies while he was away from the house for 9 hours every day. However, once Jeremy returned to work, it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. He would leave at 7 in the morning. I would wake up with him so he could see me caring for the girls. After he was gone, I would put them back in their cribs, unplug their monitors, and go back to bed. She really said, fuck them kids. I am dying. This lady ain't shit. Anyway, the rest of that section is Verity and Jeremy having sex. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, and skipping ahead, we have another section of Lowen sleepwalking. She opens her eyes and her surroundings are completely different. And once she's kind of orientated herself, she realizes that she's in Verity's room in her bed. And Verity was in the bed. Lowen is shaken by this, of course, and Jeremy comforts her about it, and we get a little bit more backstory about Lowen's sleepwalking issue, and we learned that when she was living with her mother moved down the hall and then like placed 3 locks on the inside of her bedroom because she was scared of Lowen sleepwalking, which is kind of insane. Like, whoa. But speaking of locks, Jeremy comes up with this brilliant idea to put locks on the outside of Lowen's door, in the room that she's staying in. And instantly I was like, red flags every fucking where. Okay, what are you talking about? So he explains, I can lock it after you go to sleep. Open it before you wake up. If you ever need out, you can text me, call me, and I'll open it in 2 seconds. But I think you'll sleep better knowing you can't leave the room. This is crazy. Like, this is the mental gymnastics. I'm not allowing you to lock me in a room. But Lowen's a dumbass, so this is how she reacts to this. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know why it feels more drastic than a lock on the inside of the door when they'd both be used for the same purpose, to keep me in my room. Even though the thought of it makes me uncomfortable, I'd be more uncomfortable knowing I could possibly get out of the room again. And so she says, I'd like that. Thank you. This is dumb, just dumb, like a dumb main character. Why would you agree to a strange man locking you in a room? Because mind you, it's been a couple weeks tops. I don't remember the exact details. She hasn't known this man that long. She has not. And you're agreeing to allow him to lock you in a room? You are literally putting yourself in predicaments that I can't defend you from. The lighting right now is crazy. What? I need to fix this. All right, so Lowen goes on to read yet another chapter of Verity's manuscript. And in this portion of the story, Verity apparently sees a premonition. She sees her daughter Harper killing her other daughter Chasten. And at this point, Verity has somewhat developed more of a connection with Chasten. For what reason, I forgot. It was, whatever the reason was, it was goofy. Who cares? But yes, she has this dream, and I'll read it out for you. In the dream, I was walking by their bedroom. I peeked inside and couldn't understand what I was seeing. Harper was on top of Chasten, covering her head with a pillow. I rushed over to the bed, terrified that it was too late. I pushed Harper off her sister and pulled the pillow away. I looked down at Chasten and then slapped my hand over my mouth with a gasp. There was nothing there. The front of Chasten's face was smooth, like the back of a bald head. No scar, no eyes, no mouth, nothing to smother. I glanced at Harper, taking in her sinister expression. What did you do? And then I woke up. Dun dun dun. So this dream, premonition, whatever you want to call it, leaves Verity reeling because she's like, oh my gosh, like I actually felt the heartbreak for the loss of my daughter. Have I finally grown something like a connection to Chasten? Like what is going on? She's freaking out. And it's not really explained why she's suddenly grown this affection for Chasten specifically. I guess it's just the dream itself, but this whole time she ain't gave a single damn about her daughters. So it just comes out of nowhere that she suddenly feels this loss for Chasten, whatever. But in the manuscript, she says, I had to do something, preoccupy him so he wouldn't ask too many questions. I knew from experience that Jeremy couldn't get the truth out of me if I had his dick in my mouth. And it's just like, what are we doing? This is supposed to be a thriller. This is like an erotica with like thriller elements in it. Like this is not a thriller. Anyway, from here on out, we will see that her disdain for Harper just grows and grows. And she feels like Harper's going to kill Chasten one day, and it just really fucks with her head. To the point where there's this one moment where Harper is just crying and crying and crying, and Chasten is asleep, calm, collected. The favorite daughter is not being the problem now. It's only Harper. I touched my finger to Harper's lips. Her head moved back and forth quickly, thinking it was a bottle. She latched on and began sucking the tip of my finger, but she wasn't satisfied. She released my finger and started screaming again, kicking. I shoved my finger farther into her throat. She was still crying, so I continued to shove. She made a gasping sound, but was somehow still crying. Maybe one finger wasn't enough. I pushed 2 fingers into her mouth and throat until my knuckles were pressed against her gums and she was no longer crying. I watched her for a moment, and soon her arms began to stiffen between each violent jerk of her little body. Her legs locked up. This is what she would have done to her sister if I hadn't done it to her first. I'm saving Chasten's life. She okay? Jeremy asked. Fuck. I pulled my fingers out of Harper's mouth and picked her up, pressing her face into my chest so Jeremy couldn't hear her gasping for air. So she tried to kill her baby, and it's not funny, but like it's hard for me to take this book seriously, so that's why I'm like, bruh. But yeah, she attempted to unalive her child. But it was getting to the point that Verity was being painted as such a villain that I just couldn't believe that this manuscript was legit. My theory was, like, there's no way that her being painted out to be this villain the entire time isn't going to culminate in the revelation that she's probably not the author of this manuscript. And it was at this point where I started suspecting that it was Jeremy, who for some odd diabolical reason had written this manuscript in Verity's name to paint her out to be this villain. What the motivation for that would have been, don't know, but that's what I was thinking at this point while reading the book. So Lowen and Jeremy are having another talk, and Lowen's talking to him about her mother again, and she's just refusing to bring up what she's reading in Verity's manuscript as if it makes sense. And the way she justifies these things is so silly. It is so dumb. I want to tell him he's right to be concerned because his wife's thoughts are eerily similar to her character's thoughts, but I don't want him to have that impression of her at this point. After all he's been through, he deserves to at least be able to preserve a positive memory of his marriage. Ma'am, you just read something. You just read something that paints Verity out to be this woman who wanted to murder her infant child. He should know that. Don't you think? It's like she wants to insert herself so badly in these people's lives, but at the same time she doesn't. It's so strange. Like, I don't understand her as a character. She's so annoying and she makes dumb ass decisions constantly. Again, need I remind you, you don't need to be here, woman. So in this point in the story, some time is going by, right? Lowen says, I've been here almost 2 weeks now. Corey says they processed my advance and it should hit my account any day now. Once I get the feedback from Pantom, that's the publishing company, it'll likely be time for me to move on. I've done all I can do in Verity's office. If it weren't for not having anywhere to go until that money hits my account, I'd have already left. And this is what I'm talking about. It's just the justifications for her still being here are just so flippant and weak because Jeremy offered you money to leave and you're still here. He had money for a hotel for you, baby girl. You don't need to be here. So this whole, if I had anywhere to go, I would have left by now. No, you wouldn't have, because you had an option. You could have gone to a hotel with money, and being that the advance is about to hit your account soon, you could have paid him that money back. It's just dumb. Like, it's just stupid. We just have to keep her here because the plot demands it, but it's very incoherent. Lowen's birthday comes and Jeremy and her bake a cake or something. I don't know. There's a cake. And so, Jeremy sings happy birthday to her. One thing leads to another. They start kissing and touching and feeling on each other. We saw this coming, right? But then something a little spooky happens, okay? I lean my head back against the arm of the couch, wanting him to explore even more of me. He does. He pulls off my shirt and sees that I'm now wearing a bra beneath my pajamas. He groans, and it's beautiful. And then he takes my nipple into his... and then he takes his nipple into my... And then he takes my nipple into his mouth, forcing a whisper to escape my lips. I lift my head to watch him, but my blood runs cold when my eyes are pulled to the figure standing at the top of the stairs. She's just standing there, watching her husband as his mouth roams over my breast. So yeah, Verity is watching her husband get down with Lowen, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. So Lowen freaks out once again, and she's trying to convince Jeremy that she saw Verity at the top of the stairs watching them, blah, blah, blah. They go to check. She's in her bed. Jeremy's trying to reason with her. But Verity wouldn't fake something like this. No one would. It would be impossible. I close my eyes because he's trying to reassure me that he knows her well enough to know that she wouldn't do something like that. But if there's one thing I know that Jeremy doesn't, it's that he doesn't know Verity at all. And again, I'm left wondering, one, why are you still here? Two, why would you not tell this man that you read this manuscript where his wife allegedly admitted to trying to kill one of their infant children? It's just so annoying. And then she's still she's continuing to justify the fact that she's here. Just really hammering home this stupid justification of hers. I thought he had come to the office to ask me to leave, and honestly, I'm more than ready to go. But the money still hasn't hit my account. I'm kind of stuck here until it does. Whatever. Okay, girl, whatever. She's also justifying not giving him the manuscript because there's a remote possibility that she's faking it. And I guess she's concerned that if Verity is faking her disability and she shows Jeremy the proof that Verity has something mentally unwell going on with her, that Verity would attack her or something like that. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I just don't know. So we get to another chapter of Verity's manuscript, and it finally happens. Chasten is killed. They were at a friend's house, and she was apparently exposed to some peanut butter. She had a peanut butter allergy, and you can put two and two together from there. So Jeremy and Verity received the call, and Verity's like, oh my fucking god, she's gone, and I know Harper did this. She's so convinced Harper did it. She's like, she thinks she sees guilt in Harper's eyes, and she's like, Harper cannot get away with this. She's like, just going over all of the ways she could have stopped this from happening. If she had just tried harder to kill her daughter, she could have prevented this. She's seen it coming. She knew it was going to happen. And she's just so heartbroken over the loss of Chasten. So, of course, after reading this, Lowen is just a solidified Verity hater. She's like, this bitch is disgusting. And like, one day, Verity is sitting down on the couch in the living room, and she like whispers in Verity's ear, like, you're a fucking cunt. Like, whoa, I thought this was a classy party. Lowen's still here. And then her and Jeremy are going to have some sexy time. Yay. But Jeremy tells her like, yo, I don't have a condom. And she says, well, I'm not on the pill. And then Jeremy, dumbass that he is, he goes, I'll pull out. These are grown adults, by the way. Grown adults. I'll pull out. That's what he says. So they're doing their thing, and the most ridiculous thing happens, okay? Eventually, we're in what I'm assuming is one of his favorite positions. Him on his back, his head on a pillow, my thighs on either side of his head. But I'm not sure if we ended up in this position because of him or because of me. I've yet to lower myself onto his mouth because I'm staring at the teeth marks on his headboard. Okay, so do y'all remember those teeth marks that I brought up earlier? Yeah. So after they go a couple rounds that night, they're waking up the next day, and they're like pillow talking or whatever the case. And then Lowen brings up Verity, and she asks Jeremy what his relationship was like with her. I loved her. She was my wife. But sometimes I wasn't sure we really knew each other. We lived together, but it's as if our worlds weren't connected. He reaches up and touches my lips, tracing over them with the tips of his fingers. I was insanely attracted to her, which I'm sure you don't want to hear, but it's true. Our sex life was great, but the rest of it, I don't know. I felt like there was something missing in the beginning, but I stayed and I married her, and we started our family because I always believed that deeper connection was within reach. I thought I'd wake up one day and look her in the eyes, and then it would click, like that mythical puzzle piece had finally snapped into place. You're a grown-ass man. Like, even before, when you married her, you were a grown-ass man. Y'all had no connection beyond sex, and you thought it was a good idea to marry her because you thought you'd wake up one day and feel a connection? Are we what are we doing in this book, bro? What are we doing? What are we doing?
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
Every character in this book is a dumbass, and everyone's pissing me off, and I hate it here. So Lowen asks, did you eventually find that connection? No, not like I had hoped, but I felt something close to it, a fleeting intensity that proved a deeper connection can exist. When was that? Several weeks ago, he says quietly, in a random coffee shop bathroom with a woman who wasn't my wife. Get the fuck out of here, dude. What what? I'm so upset. What are you talking about? Your connection to Lowen also has not gone beyond a few conversations, some lingering gazes, and sex. What is this connection? I don't know. I don't see it. I haven't found the connection. Y'all still barely know each other. And you're telling me you first felt the connection with her while you were in that bathroom wiping blood off of her after she had seen a man get hit by a truck? Mind you, that does not come back up again ever. That is forgotten about, that she saw a man get run down right in front of her. Added nothing to the story. It was literally just used as an excuse to get him and Lowen together in that bathroom, but I feel like you could have found a number of ways to get that to happen. I don't know. Anyway, they're in Lowen's room when this conversation is taking place, and Jeremy eventually gets up to make his leave, but when he goes to open the door, it's locked, it's budged, it won't open. Who could have ever seen that coming? I don't know. Like, it was such a dumb idea to put locks on the other side of the door, but sure, we're here now. They eventually escape, and that's that. So we get another chapter from Verity's manuscript, and this shit is bananas because she has officially taken it upon herself to murder Harper, and she does it by like framing it as an accident. So what she does is her crew and Harper get into this little boat or canoe, whatever it was, I don't know. They get into this little boat, and when they're a decent enough distance from shore, she tilts the boat over, right? And then she grabs crew and she swims with crew back to shore, and then she lets Harper drown. It's not funny. I gripped the edge of the canoe and leaned all my weight to the right. I heard a small yelp. I wasn't sure if it came from Crew or Harper, but after the yelp and the initial splash, I heard nothing, just pressure. The silence pressed against my ears as I kicked my arms and legs until I broke through the surface. I could hear splashing, Harper scream, Crew scream. I swam toward Crew and wrapped my arms around him. I looked toward the house, hoping I could make it back to shore with him. We were farther out than I'd realized. I started swimming. Harper was screaming, splashing. I continued to swim. She continued to scream. Nothing. I heard another splash. More nothing. I kept swimming and refused to look back until I could feel the mud seep between my toes. I gripped at the surface of the lake like it was a life vest. Crew was gasping and coughing, bobbing up and down, clinging to me. It was harder than I thought it would be to keep him afloat. So then she goes on to put on a show like she was actually hysteric and looking to find Harper. So she swims back to the canoe. The canoe was upside down, closer inland than when it flipped. Jeremy and I had flipped the canoe a couple of times before, so I was aware there were air pockets when it was positioned like that. What if Harper had swam to it? What if she had clung to it and was hiding under it, waiting to tell her daddy what I had done? I worked my way to the canoe. I moved carefully, not wanting to touch her. When I reached the capsized boat, I held my breath and went under the water. I popped up inside the canoe. Oh, thank God, I thought. She wasn't there. Thank God. I heard Crew calling my name from far away. I ducked under the water and popped up outside the canoe. I screamed Harper's name, full of panic like an actual devastated mother would. Harper! Daddy is coming, Crew yelled from the shore. I started screaming Harper's name even louder. The police would be here soon, before Jeremy. Harper! I went under several times so that I'd be out of breath. I did that over and over until I could barely stay afloat. I screamed her name and didn't stop until a police officer was pulling me out of the water. I continued to scream her name, throwing in the occasional, my daughter, and my baby girl. One person was in the water looking for her, then two, then three. Then I felt someone fly past me onto the dock. He ran to the end and jumped in head first. When he popped up, I saw that it was Jeremy. I can't describe the look on his face as he yelled for her. It was a look of determination mixed with horror, mixed with psychosis. I was crying real tears at that point. I wanted to smile at how appropriately hysterical I was, but I didn't because part of me knew I had messed up. I could see it in Jeremy's face. This one would be even harder for him to recover from than Chasten. I didn't anticipate that. You dumb bitch. What do you mean you didn't anticipate that? You mean you thought he would be okay after not one but two of his daughters die? Dumb, delusional, and deadly. That's what you are, Miss Verity. And by the end of this chapter, she's convinced that with time he'll be okay. He'll be okay and he'll get over it and they'll live happily ever after. Okay. So again, Lowen is just thoroughly devastated and creeped out after reading all of this. And then Jeremy ends up coming to her with the news that they're going to move Verity into a home. And Lowen's like, you know what? I think that'll be best for the three of you, meaning Verity, Crew, and Jeremy. So Jeremy asks Lowen to stay another week after giving this news. So they get to kissing and everything, and it's leading up to some more sexy time because, of course, this is an erotica. He's kissing me when he comes, his lips rigid, his breath shallow, making no attempt to pull out. He collapses on top of me, still inside me. We're quiet because we both know what we just did. We don't discuss it, though. We know where that's going. She's gonna have a baby. Yeah. And I don't, why do we feel the need to do this? Why do they need to have a child? Why? For what? I pull a pillow over my face and smile. What has come over me? Maybe this house is fucking with my head because half the time I'm ready to get the hell out of here and half the time I never want to leave. The manuscript is definitely fucking with my head. I feel like I'm falling in love with the man and I've only known him for a few weeks. But I'm not only falling in love with him in real life. I've fallen in love with him because of Verity's words. Everything she revealed about him has given me insight into the kind of person he is, and he deserves better than what she gave him. I want to give him what she never did. And I find this to be so very interesting considering how the end of this book goes. Like this is so interesting, like just so interesting. So we get to the final chapter of Verity's manuscript of her autobiography. And we're reading that Jeremy is a little bit suspicious. Like after Harper's death, he's talking with Verity about it again, and he's just really questioning her. And then he eventually asks her, why did Crew tell me that you told him to hold his breath before the canoe flipped over? Because she did indeed tell Crew to hold his breath before the canoe flipped over. And then it was at that moment where she's like, oh, I fucked up. Like, it's done. It's over. He knows. She tries to clean it up. She's like, no, I said that as we were tipping, but he's not buying it. And she knows that he's not buying it. And it's like, yeah, it's a wrap for you, Verity. You're done. You're chopped. And then at that moment, after that conversation is over, she leaves. She comes up to her office, and then she begins writing this manuscript that we're currently reading. And the chapter basically concludes with the sentiment that if he ultimately ends up believing that Harper's death wasn't an accident and she caused it, then she'll just drive her car into a tree. And then that's it. That's it for the manuscript. And wow, what a shitty book. And from this point forward, shit kind of gets real, because Lowen ends up seeing Verity out of her bed and like moving and shit. She's on the floor because there's a monitor in Verity's room. So Lowen sees that she actually can move. It's not just in her head. This is real. So then she screams for Jeremy, and they rush to Verity's room, but not before Lowen grabs the manuscript and she shoves it at him as they reach the door. She's like, bro, you need to read this shit. Like, this shit is crazy. And it's like, girl, you should have been did that. Like, why did it take you this long? Like, there's no reason it should have taken you this long. So she leaves him with the manuscript, right? And then I'm just gonna read the ridiculousness, okay? My eyes flick up to the ceiling when I hear a crash. It wasn't loud, but it sounded like it came from the room Jeremy is in. He hasn't been up there for very long, but it's enough time to at least skim the manuscript and know that Verity was not at all the woman he thought she was. I hear a cry. It's low and quiet, but I hear him. I fall into my side and hug the pillow as I squeeze my eyes shut. It kills me to know how much he's hurting right now as he reads page after page of a truth so harsh it never should have been written. Footsteps are above me now, moving around upstairs. He hasn't been up there nearly long enough to read the entire thing, but I can understand that. If I were him, I would have skipped to the end to see what really happened to Harper. I hear a door open. I run across the hall to the office and look at the monitor. Jeremy is standing in Verity's doorway, looking at her. I can see both of them from the monitor. Verity. She doesn't answer him, obviously. She doesn't want him to know she's a threat. Or maybe she's been faking it because she's afraid he'll turn her into the police. Whatever her reason, I have a feeling Jeremy isn't going to walk away from the room until he gets his answer. Verity, he says, stepping closer to her. If you don't answer me, I'm calling the police. She still doesn't answer him. He walks over to her, reaches down and pulls one of her eyelids open. He stares at her for a moment, then walks toward the door. He doesn't believe me. But then he pauses, like he's questioning himself, questioning what he read. He turns around and walks over to her. When I walk out of this room, I'm taking your manuscript straight to the police. They'll put you away and you'll never see me or crew again if you don't open your eyes and tell me what's going on in this house. Several seconds pass. I'm holding my breath, waiting for her to move, hoping she moves so that Jeremy will know I'm telling the truth. A whimper escapes my throat when she opens her eyes. I slap my hand over my own mouth before it turns into a scream. I'm afraid I'll wake crew, and this is not something he needs to walk into. Jeremy's whole body tenses, and then he grabs his head in both hands as he backs away from her bed. He meets the wall. What the fuck, Verity? She holds up her hands. Please don't hurt me. I'll explain everything. Don't hurt you? Jeremy spins around, taking a step forward. You killed her, Verity. I can hear the anger in his voice, and it's just over the monitor, but Verity has a front row seat to it. She tries to jump off the bed to escape him, but he doesn't allow it. He grabs her by the leg and yanks her back onto the bed. When she starts to scream, he covers her mouth. They struggle. She's trying to kick him. He's trying to hold her down. Then his other hand forms a circle around her throat. No, Jeremy. So yeah, he's trying to kill her now. Yeah, that's what's happening. So then Lowen races to the room to try and stop him. He's not having it. He's like, no, she killed our daughter. I grab his face, try to pull him to me. Think about crew, I say, my voice low. Your son will not have a father if you do this. I see the slow change in him as my words sink in. He eventually pulls his hands from her throat. I double over, gasping for as much breath as Verity is right now. She's sputtering, trying to inhale. She tries to speak or scream. Jeremy covers her mouth and looks at me. There's a plea in his eyes, but it's not a plea for me to call for help. It's a plea for me to help him figure out a better way to end her. I don't even argue with him. There's not a single cell in her body that deserves to live after all she's done. I step back and try to think. So, bitch, you're about to help him commit murder? You're about to help this man commit murder. Are we serious right now? And she is really contemplating this shit. Like, she's dead ass. She is helping him. If he chokes her, they'll know. His handprints will be on her throat. If he smothers her, particles from the pillow will be in her lungs. But we have to do something. If he doesn't, she'll get away with it somehow because she's manipulative. She'll end up hurting him or crew. She'll kill him just like she killed her daughter. Just like she tried to kill Harper as an infant. Just like she tried to kill Harper as an infant. You have to make it look like an accident, I say, my voice quiet yet loud enough to be heard over the noises she's making beneath the palm of his hand. Make her vomit. Cover her nose and mouth until she stops breathing. breathing. It'll look like she aspirated in her sleep. Jeremy's eyes are wide as he listens to me, but there's understanding there. He pulls his hands from her mouth and then shoves his fingers down her throat. I turn my head. I can't watch. I hear the gagging and then the choking, and it feels like it goes on forever. Forever. I sink to the floor, my whole body racked with tremors. I press my palms against my ears and attempt to ignore the sounds of Verity's last breaths, of her last movements. After a while, the sound of 3 people's lungs turns into 2. It's only Jeremy and me breathing now. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. I can't stop whispering it over and over as the enormity of what we've just done begins to register. Yeah, you fucking think, bitch? What the fuck am I reading? What the fuck am I reading? I find it funny. I find it so incredibly funny that this woman has the nerve to judge Amos because he likes a little consensual chokey, but you're willing for this man to really chokey someone to death? What kind of moral compass do you have? Miss, what the hell are we doing here? And then the fact that she ended her sexual relationship with Corey because she found out that he was seeing someone, but she has no problem being all up in this woman's house, getting with her husband, and then killing her over the words she read in a manuscript, as if calling the police just genuinely was not an option. I think that's crazy. I think Lowen's just as crazy as she tries to make Verity out to be. She's just as deranged, just as delusional. At least with Jeremy, it can be somewhat justified because it's like that's truly a crime of passion, right? And when I say justified, I mean, I'm not saying him killing her is justified, but Lowen being an accomplice to this murder. Girl, you met this man has it even been a month? Bro, this is in like the internal logic of Lowen as a character. She sucks. She sucks so bad. So anyway, the chapter ends with them coming to the agreement to tell authorities that she died in her sleep. Verity died in her sleep. Sure, whatever. We're fast forwarding 7 months later now. Lowen's pregnant. Who's surprised? Not me. They're moving out of the house and whatever. They're moving things out of that house. Lowen and Jeremy are trying to live together somewhere else, happily ever after. So as they're finishing up, Crew races up the stairs to go get something that he left, and then he comes back down and tells Lowen like, I forgot that my mom used to keep the pictures I drew from her under the floor. So yeah, there's a secret compartment underneath the floorboards, which Lowen discovers, right? And underneath these floorboards in Verity's room, she discovers something else, and it's a handwritten letter to Jeremy. Now this is where the fuck shit just... So long story short, the whole autobiography manuscript was bullshit, allegedly, because Verity was doing this thing called antagonistic journaling, where she pretty much put on the persona of someone who is like a villain. And the reason she did this is because she was having a conversation with her editor, and she was expressing concern because she didn't know, which angle to take her next book or whatever. And then her editor suggested like, try antagonistic journaling, like just getting the creative juices flowing. That's the point of the exercise. And so that's what she did. That was literally the premise behind her starting the autobiography, right? So the big takeaway from that is that the way she's writing, it's purposefully meant to come off as mean and cruel, and she's taking events and embellishing or fabricating. And apparently this really helped her, so she just kept going and going, with each new milestone or life event that happened between her and Jeremy. She wrote about it in an antagonistic way. This was something that allowed her to cope with the loss of their first daughter, Chasten. And it's just something that she kept up because she had a lot of guilt and blamed herself. And it felt relieving to have this fictional being in writing that she could put all of that onto. And so we learn in this letter from Verity that was meant for Jeremy that Harper's death was an accident. She didn't really mean any of the things that she was saying in that manuscript, but Jeremy ended up reading that manuscript. And of course, in this manuscript, she's detailing Harper's death and Chasten's death from this very antagonistic, villainous perspective. And when Jeremy gets a hold of it, of course, he flips out. Now, I don't know how popular antagonistic writing or journaling is. I don't know if that's a thing people actually do, but it's so like that just feels like so incriminating. Like I would not do if I knew my husband because it was true that Jeremy had suspected that Verity had something to do with Harper's death before he got his hands on the journal. But again, from this letter, she actually didn't have anything to do with Harper's death. She was just writing as if she did in this antagonistic journaling fashion. And I don't know if this is a thing people do, but is that not super incriminating? Like I wouldn't even have that on my laptop. Why would I write something down like, yeah, I killed my daughter under the guise of an autobiography? It doesn't matter that it wasn't supposed to see the light of day. It doesn't matter that no one else is supposed to read it. You wrote that down. That could be used against you in the court of fucking law. Why would you write that? But she does justify this by saying in the letter, I can't explain the mind of a writer to you, Jeremy, especially the mind of a writer who has been through more devastation than most writers combined. We're able to separate our reality from fiction in such a way that it feels as if we live in both worlds, but never both worlds at once. My real world had grown so dark that I didn't want to live in it that night. It's why I escaped from it and spent the night writing about a world darker than the one I was living in. Because every time I worked on that autobiography, I found relief in closing the laptop. I found relief in walking out of my office and being able to close the door on the evil I created. And I understand that to an extent, but to go as far as like incriminating yourself, I can't, I can only suspend my disbelief so much. You know what I mean? So she goes on to say, I printed it out and stuffed it away in a box. Which, yes, so you already have this on your laptop, but then you go as far as to print it out too. It's just, this is nonsensical, bro. This is dumb. Like, why would you print that out? It's bad enough that it's on your laptop. You know, and at least with the laptop, it's, you know, behind a passcode. But then you print the shit out for a physical copy. Anyway, I printed it out and stuffed it away in a box, thinking one day in the future I'd get back to it, maybe add an epilogue, but maybe I would burn it. Whatever the plan was, I was not expecting you to somehow read it. I was not expecting you to believe it. After being up all night writing, I slept most of the day. When I finally woke up that night, I couldn't find you. Crew was already asleep, but you weren't up there with him. I was standing in the hallway wondering where you had disappeared to when I heard a noise in my office. The noise was you. I'm not sure what kind of sound you had made, but it was worse than either of the days we found out the girls had died. I walked toward my office to console you, but I stopped short before opening the door because your cries had turned into rage. Something crashed against the wall. I jumped back, wondering what was happening. That's when I remembered the laptop. The autobiography was the last file I had opened. I swung open the door to explain what I knew you had just read. I'll never forget the look on your face as you stood there and looked at me from across the room. It was complete and utter misery. I shook my head, tried to speak. I wanted to say, no, it's not true, Jeremy. It's okay, it's not true. But all I could get out was a fearful and pathetic no. The next thing I knew, you were dragging me by the throat to the bedroom. I was no match for your strength as you held my arms down with your knees and squeezed my throat even tighter. If you'd given me 5 seconds, just 5 seconds to explain, I could have saved us. I tried so hard to say, just let me explain, but I couldn't breathe. I'm not sure what the sequence of events was after that. I know I passed out. Maybe you panicked because you realized you had almost killed me. If I had died on that bed, you would have been arrested for my murder. Crew wouldn't have a father. I woke up in the passenger seat of my Range Rover, and you were behind the wheel. There was tape on my mouth, and my hands and feet were bound together. Again, I just wanted to explain that what you read wasn't true, but I couldn't talk. I looked down and I realized I didn't have a seatbelt, and in that moment, I knew what you were doing. Okay, so, reveal. I saw it coming. You saw it coming. We saw it coming. Everyone saw it coming. Jeremy was responsible for Verity's accident, which, I mean, I was wrong in one instance when I had said that when I said he was the one writing for Verity instead of it actually being Verity who was writing that manuscript. But no, he was still involved. I had been suspecting him. I was like, bro, something's going on with this man. So yeah, he deliberately crashed that car into a tree and disabled his wife. It was one simple sentence in my manuscript about how I should turn off the passenger airbag and drive my car into a tree while Harper was unbuckled so her death would look like an accident. You were going to kill me and make my death look like an accident. I had unknowingly written my own death in the last 2 sentences of my manuscript. So be it. Maybe I'll just drive my car into a tree. I realized in that moment if you were ever suspected of my death, all you had to do was provide the manuscript. Had I died, it would have been the perfect suicide letter. Of course, we both know how that part of the story ended. I'm assuming you removed the tape from my hands and feet and placed me into the driver's side of the vehicle and walked back home where you waited for the police to come notify you that I had died. Your plan didn't quite work out though. I'm not sure I'm relieved that it failed. It would almost be easier if I had died in that wreck because pretending to be injured has been difficult. I'm sure you're wondering why I've been deceiving you for so long. I have very little memory of that first month after Harper's death. I'm assuming I was in a medically induced coma because of the swelling on my brain, but I remember the day I came out of it very clearly. I was alone in the room, thank God, which gave me time to process what needed to happen next. How would I explain to you that every negative word you read was a lie? You wouldn't believe me if I tried to deny that manuscript because I wrote it. Those words were mine, no matter how untrue they were. Because who would believe it was a lie? Certainly not someone who didn't understand the writing process. And if you were aware that I had recovered, you would turn me into the police, if you hadn't already. I'm sure an investigation would have followed Harper's death had I not had that wreck. And with my own husband against me, I had no doubt that I would be convicted of her murder because it would be my own words used against me. So yeah, she just decides to pretend to be disabled from here on out because her husband wouldn't believe her, that the police also wouldn't believe her because she has written this autobiography where she incriminates herself, which that's what your dumbass gets, because why would you do that? Like I said before, that is literally stupid. Literally stupid. Like, I'm sure there's a way you could have antagonistically journaled without setting yourself up for failure like that. Like girl, come on. Anyway, let me keep reading. Despite what my manuscript stated, your love for our children is the thing I've always cherished most about you. There have been moments throughout these past few months when I've wanted to tell you I'm here, that it's me, that I'm okay. But it would be a waste of breath. We can't get past 2 murder attempts, Jeremy. And I know if you find out I'm faking this before I'm able to leave, your 3rd attempt at killing me will be successful. Well, so now we're at the point of her letter where Lowen is now involved. I admit it's my fault she's growing suspicious. I know it freaks her out when she catches me looking at her, but you can't blame me. This woman has entered your life, is taking over my career, is falling in love with you. And from what I can tell, you're falling in love with her too. I heard you fucking her in our bedroom a couple of hours ago. As much as I'm hurting, I'm equally as angry. However, you're so occupied with her right now, I feel it's the safest time to write this letter. I locked the door to the master bedroom so I'll be able to hear you trying to get out. It'll provide me with enough time to hide this letter and get back in place before you can make it upstairs. So yeah, there's the explanation for why the door was locked that morning. Lowen and Jeremy tried to get out, which, like, sure, whatever. But yes, at this point, Verity was planning on leaving Jeremy and taking Crew with her. But unfortunately, it just did not work out that way, because once Lowen and all of that got involved and it escalated to where it escalated, there was just no way. It's been tough, Jeremy, not gonna lie, all of it. Knowing you believed my words more than you believed my actions over the course of our marriage. Knowing I've had to resort to this level of deceit to save myself from being convicted of one of the most atrocious things a mother could do. Knowing you're falling in love with another woman while I spend day after day pretending to be unaware of what our lives have turned into. But I keep pushing through because I'm confident that I'll get out of here as soon as that money comes, which is why I'm leaving you this note. Maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. I hope you do. I really hope you do. Because even after you tried to choke me to death and crash my car into a tree, I can't find it in myself to hate you. You have always been fierce in your protection of our children, which is exactly how parents should be. Even if that means eliminating the parent who has become a threat to them. You truly believe in your heart that I am a threat to Crew, and even though it kills me to know you believe that, it also gives me life knowing how much you love him. Girl, shut the fuck up. Anyway, she ends this letter, this long fucking 10-page letter, by saying, I don't blame you for what you've done to me. You were a wonderful husband until you couldn't be, and you were the best father in the world, hands down. I love you, even still. Verity. So yeah, Lowen reads this and she's feeling sick to her stomach. She's like, oh my God, like, is this really the truth? Like, cause mind you, they murdered this woman. I crawl forward and grab the pages. I shove the knife and picture back into the floor, then cover the hole with the wood. I take the pages to the bathroom and I lock the door behind me. I kneel in front of the toilet and I start ripping each page into tiny shreds. I flush some of the paper and eat as many pieces of the letter I can find with Jeremy's name. Why are we eating the paper? We're just doing shit to do shit now. It's the end of the book. Who cares? Jeremy finds her and he's completely oblivious to what Lowen has discovered. He will never know what I know. I'll make certain of that. I will take this secret to my grave with me so Jeremy doesn't have to. I have no idea what to believe, so why put him through more anguish? Verity could have written that letter as a way to try and cover her tracks. It could have been another ploy at manipulating the situation and everyone involved. And even if Jeremy really was the reason for her wreck, I can't blame him. He believed Verity maliciously murdered his child. I can't even blame him for ultimately following through with her murder when he found out she had been deceiving him about her injuries. Any parent in his position would have done the same, should have done the same. We both believed in our hearts that she was a threat to Crew, to us. No matter which way I look at it, it's clear that Verity was a master at manipulating the truth. The only question that remains is, which truth was she manipulating? The end. Girl, Colleen, you thought you ate that. Okay. So we're left on this kind of ambiguous note that Verity could have been telling the truth in the letter, or the letter could have just been used as a cover to mask the fact that she really wanted Harper dead. Girl, sure, fine. Like, that could have been an interesting ending to the story if the story was coherent enough, but it's just not. Like I said, this was an erotica dressed up as a thriller, and not a very good one, unfortunately. I think the biggest victim of this story is Amos. Justice for Amos. Justice for Amos. He got so vilified just for this woman to turn around and be an accomplice to murder. Like, that is crazy to me. Amos, I'm so sorry that she even had the audacity to treat you like she treated you because you liked a little chokey. Like, you should not have been judged for liking a little chokey. The way that Lowen ended up in the end, she ain't got no room to judge nobody. She should not be on anybody's high horse, on anybody's pedestal. She deserves everything terrible that comes her way after the conclusion of this story. And honestly, there's nothing left to talk about. Like, what do I even say about this? Truly, what do I even say about this? Everybody sucked. All the characters sucked. Everyone just made dumbass, stupid, illogical decisions. And the story is low-key ableist. That's all. Bye.